The last panel session for today's event is Shaping Africa's Digital Future, Policy and Regulatory Framework for Accelerated Growth. And to talk to us about this topic today, I would love to respectfully invite the Director General, he was here earlier, the Director General, National Information Technology Development Agency, needs that no other person but Dr. Kashifu Abdullahi. Please, a round of applause as he comes up on stage. Thank you so much. Thank you. We really appreciate your presence here today. We also have representing the Chairman, Association of Licensed Telecommunication Operators of Nigeria, Engineer Benga Adebayo, is Dayo Oketule, who is representing the Chairman, like I said, Association of Licensed Telecommunication Operators of Nigeria. Please make welcome Dayo as he comes up on stage. Oketola, thank you. Dayo Oketola, thank you very much. Moderating this session, another panelist that we have is the General Manager Technical ICSL, no other person but Tinuade Oguntuyi. If I got that correctly, please appreciate her as she comes on stage. Thank you very much. And moderating this session is no other person but Finance Director. I'm talking about Osinachi Ibeneme. Please, a resounding round of applause as he comes up on stage. This would be the final session for today's event. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for your patience. Thank you.
I think we'll go straight into it. It's really a pivotal moment in Africa and in the world, as the world continues the race towards digital emancipation. So I'd like to start with you, DG, sir, if you don't mind. The race towards AI is on, and sometimes the question is Africa being left behind? How ready are we in Africa, in Nigeria, in Africa, for the AI revolution? What are your thoughts?
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me once again. I think for me, our focus should not be about the rest. It should be about how can we harness AI and benefit from it. Because there is always this, either to move towards the west or east. But I think we should be at the middle to bring the West and the East to help us achieve our goals. Because sometimes if we said we will just lock ourselves with one technology, we are not helping ourselves. So as Africa, we need to look at our potentials. We need to look at how technology like mobile technology helped us leapfrog, create markets, and create wealth and prosperity in Africa. AI is going to be more powerful than the mobile revolution. So how can we harness it? Then we need to look at what are the foundational infrastructure we need to have in place. What kind of policies do we need to have in place? And what kind of skills do we need to build? So one of the big challenges we are having in Africa is policy fragmentation and uncertainty. That's why most of the big techs are not willing to come and invest and build infrastructure in Africa. But do we have to wait for them? Can't we build it ourselves? We have proven to the world we can do it. During the mobile revolution, the digital payment system, we led the world on how to build these systems. Because I know when we started using smart ATM card, They are using the magnetic ones in most of the developed countries. When we started using instant payment more than 15 years ago, they were struggling with T+3. Just 2 years ago, I was in the US. One of the big technology companies was pitching to us instant payment solution. Then I told them, we have passed that one. We've done it 15 years ago. So we can do it the same thing with AI. And we should not allow the challenges we have to be an obstacle to us. When Mo Ibrahim wanted to start investing in telecommunication, people were laughing at him. Who will buy mobile phones in Africa? People were struggling to have 3 meals. But he looked at it from different perspectives, as a tool, as an enabler. When he started, the place he started, there were no electricity. He built it using solar. And that's one of the essence. We are having this platform to see how we can bring all the data center providers, including the hyperscalers, to build African compute infrastructure. Thank you.
Wonderful. That's quite a comprehensive answer there. I particularly like the reference you made to policy, all right, as being key to unlocking the potentials that we have. And I think it's also interesting where you said that Africa can actually lead in this revolution because we have what it takes, right? Particularly in terms of human resources. Nigeria, for example, has one of the highest population of young people. But when we look at infrastructure, and I'll come to you now, Dio, infrastructure is key for digital revolution, whether you're talking about building more towers, more fiber, more data centers. So the question is, how can policy help to encourage more investments in infrastructure? What, in your opinion, are some of the changes we need to see in our regulatory framework that would encourage more investments in digital infrastructure in Africa?
Thank you very much. Yeah, as the anchor person said earlier, I'm standing in for Engineer Gbenga Adebayo, the chairman of Alton. Yeah, so my take is this. There's really nothing we can achieve, when it comes to our infrastructural desires if our policies are not right. It is the policies that bring together all the things we're doing in different clusters and help us as a nation to mobilize those things together and make impact for them. So what do I mean? The Nita Dij was talking about AI the other time, and of course I agree with everything he has said, because it appears as if the greatest tech revolution we're having in this age is AI. I reason to say that it's going to be bigger than everything we've had in the past. And from all indication, Africa is already left behind because the policies are not there. And of course, you need the right infrastructure to be able to maximize the opportunities that AI, portends for us. So we need a lot of collaboration, both nationally, regionally, and globally. The fact that AI is working in other countries, or the fact that people are making giant leaps with AI in other countries doesn't mean it will work in Africa automatically. If we don't sit down together, the policymakers, the operators, and government, private sector, to localize AI, in relation to our peculiar reality, begin to build models that work for us. But I'm going to end by saying that we need to develop new skill sets in policy making for us to be able to take advantage of AI. Both the policymakers and the operators must understand what AI means. If you don't understand, you can't make. So for me, I'll propose that we need an overhaul. we need to develop new skill sets. The policy, most of the time, why we have policy somersault in Nigeria is because the people who are supposed to make the policies and also drive it know very little, most of the time, about the policy. Most of the time. And of course, operators don't often end up being in the position of policy makers. So at the end of the day, and because you cannot also fight your regulators, you just flow with them, even when they don't really know what they are saying. So we need a general overhaul in this area, in the area of policy, for us to be able to take advantage of AI. I hope I've been able to address that question.
Yes, thank you very much. What I hear you say is there's need for education, even for the policymakers, because you need to understand what you need to regulate in order to make that impact. And I'll come to you now, Tino, because there's something Dio mentioned that I want us to hone in a little bit on. And that's with regards to public-private partnerships, all right? Clearly, there's a lot of work that the private sector is doing in this area. But what, in your view, can and should we see more of in terms of public-private partnerships that will help us to drive the unleashing of this digital revolution? What will be your recommendation in this area?
Okay, thank you very much, and good afternoon once again, everyone. I think I have gone ahead to modify the private and public partnership beyond that to also add the civil society. And maybe I'm biased because I'm also a member of the Internet Society while I'm also in the technical community. I would want to quickly react to something before I take this question. Please permit me. And that was what Mr. Dio was saying. I think largely I beg to differ in some things, and I will say why. I think largely all over the world, there is always this conflict of policy and technology being like an advancement or when it emerges. And this is why I said so. If we wait to make the policy before we utilize, I tell you, by the time you're done, another technology has emerged. So I think it's always safer that the synergy comes right from the beginning. If something is emerging, bring the ones that are the technocrats, for instance, and bring the government or the regulators or the policymakers to say that this is the direction AI is going. And these are some of the things we look out for. Whether we like it or not, OpenAI coming like 2022, all we are saying now is not what we're saying as at then. So there was no way there would have been a policy that would probably capture everything. Having said that, I'll come now and streamline it into the private and the public and the civil society merging together and coming together. When we synergize, then we align thoughts. When we isolate, then we have diverse, and that is why it looks like there are too many silos. If government comes and say, oh, AI is everywhere, what is the direction? Policymaker, come into this room, the regulatory body, you're there. Private sector, come into this room. The people that take this even to the communities that naturally we don't. Do you know how many schools in Nigeria that it is civil society that takes digital literacy to? Good, we have the DG of NIDA here, and I know they have done even more. But before now, you will see how many clubs were you, at least if you are a Nigerian, back in secondary schools that were not initiated by one civil society or the other. So everybody should come together, sit and let's discuss this. And it is a continuum. It's not something that we can do once and for all. And that's why the word amendment exists. So we all come, or if the private sector wants to put the funds, we put the funds. Government wants to shape it so that nobody is out at the other day. And some people definitely will implement. I think looking at it from that direction, we will not be counterproductive. So I will not be trying to fund something that government will wake up and say, no, you can't do it like that, because I think I will make enough money to run my government. So it is that synergy right from, we build it from inception and we grow like that. That way we get the benefits of what the partnerships will bring. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's quite insightful. I like the way you've presented the public-private collaboration. And just to hone that in on synergy, I want to go to another type of synergy, and I'll come to you now, DG, sir. which is the synergy we should be seeing in Africa. So this is about regional collaboration now, right? Which I believe is key for us to get the full benefits of AI and digital revolution in Africa. And so whether it's in terms of, spectrum or cybersecurity or data governance, the question is, how can we collaborate more as African countries, right, in a way that will help us to win in this digital revolution that we're looking at today? Is there an opportunity for collaboration in a way that, of course, does not work against national priorities?
So, thank you very much. Let me just echo what Dayo said before I respond to that. We need to change the way we see policy making. And also, as an ecosystem, we need to reinvent our social contract. Policy making is beyond just government officials sitting in the office using armchair theory to come up with policies. We need to make it a collaborative way of doing things. Because when you are making policy without having the builders as part of it, you will never get the desired result. That policy will end on the shelf catching dust. So to reinvent that social contract, what we are doing at NIDA, we came up with a framework. We call it Intelligent Regulatory Framework. For you to make a policy or regulation, you need to be aware of the industry. You need to carry everyone along. You need to be intelligent. You need to have enough data, and you need to develop agility. When you get new data, you should be able to change the direction of that policy. And you need to be dynamic. You need to adopt new things. You need to change quickly and so on. So to achieve this, you need to have all critical stakeholders on board to design and co-create that policy. The typical example is how we develop our national AI strategy. Was developed through a collaborative framework where we brought all Nigerians with AI background into a room to design that strategy. And also, we carried the civil society organization, academia, everyone. So that's the way today we design policies. So we look at ourselves as an ecosystem. It's not one stakeholder having it or knowing it all. Because as a government, there are things we can do the private sector cannot do. And there are things private sector can do, government cannot do. But together, we can do greater things. So with that in mind, we make sure everyone is carried along. So when it comes to Africa, also we need to look at it. Like in tech, we used to say Nigerian tech ecosystem, African tech ecosystem, global tech ecosystem. That means no one can succeed in isolation. And IT doesn't respect border or jurisdiction. It goes across. As we are building systems, we build it to solve the immediate, our environmental challenges. But while building, we should build with the bigger picture in mind. That system you are building to solve a problem, maybe in Lagos or in Zamfara or in your village, can scale up to solve problem within your state, within the country, within the continent, and to the world. That's how all these big techs were built. Facebook was built in the Harvard campus to solve just the networking problem between students. But today, we are all using it. Likewise, internet was built in that way. So Africa also as a country, we need to have that bigger picture, but we need to build small. So as you dream big, but you build small, that's the only way we can succeed. So that cut across the policy making, the technology building, and the infrastructure as well. So if we do that, it will help us break the barriers.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Dream big, but build small. That's quite insightful. So we'll start to wrap up now because we're kind of out of time. So what I would like for you to do is, and I'll start with you, Bayo. In one sentence, what in your opinion is the most critical thing that policymakers can start to do to help us go further in this digital revolution and to build a truly digital economy in Nigeria and in Africa? In one sentence.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm going to say that policymakers must come up with policies to drive digital inclusion in Nigeria and Africa. As we speak, it's easier for us to be gathered here in Lagos, have this beautiful conference, and discuss all these technologies and all of that. Beyond Lagos and the major cities, it's almost a blackout. A lot of Africans are, as we speak, left behind in the digital revolution. Whatever the future we're talking about, they're not there yet. So policies must be get together. For me, I like to humanize government policies. How does it affect, that woman, that small older farmer in Funtua or in a village in Oyo State? So policies that do not affect lives at that level is not the kind of policy we're looking at, because the impact is very minimal. And at the end of the day, we'll speak big grammar here, and 10 years down the line, you realize that there are a lot of Nigerians who need this more. They've not been captured. So policies should be geared towards digital inclusion driven by AI. AI is the enabler now. AI has given Africa and Nigeria particularly the leap that the ground we're looking for to be able to do a major catch-up with the rest of the world. But we can only maximize the opportunities therein if we get our policies right. And finally, I'm sorry, Madam was talking about that we don't need to wait for policy, but we can develop and, of course, allow policies to catch up. It's a model. But there's another model. How come developed nations are always prepared? AI didn't just happen. When AI came, when it emerged, some countries tapped into it immediately because they had a very solid, proactive policy-making machinery in place. That is what we don't have in place. For now, we're talking about AI. Those people are talking about what's going to happen next. There's something beyond AI. It's going to be AI, largely AI-driven. Some countries are thinking about it. We're not there yet. So our policy making should be proactive. You see ahead, you plan ahead, 5 years, 10 years down the line, so that you don't get caught up unawares. So digital inclusion is the mantra for me. Policy making is the driver that can make it happen. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Very apt. Yes. Thank you. All right, Tino. Let's hear from you.
Okay, thank you. So that it doesn't look like you are reacting to questions, but I had my reasons for saying that part that I mentioned. We say now that, the developed countries, they saw ahead and all that, which is fine. I think even before we came here, there was something we were talking about in relation to this. But do you know, even in the West, they are still struggling with AI policies? Do you get what I'm trying to say? Because even like to the deepfake, there's this 60-minute program that I watched right on the stage. The deepfake happened even to the moderator and the panelists. That is not captured yet. And that does not mean you should have stopped the usage. I'm just saying that along the line, we do it. We can't just wait. Because if you wait to build the policy, then the tide had gone ahead. That's where I was taking it from. So thank you for clarifying where you also brought it. And I think the whole idea is for everybody to get value out of this. So for me, policymakers, I wanted to take what the DG said, in another way we say it in internet society, for instance, it is to think global and act local. We can solve all problems. I don't know how many of us know in GBT right now. I don't know how many of us heard of the recent $1 million investment Google had in Africa. I mean, all of this can come. Policymakers just need to get the right people in the room. We cannot achieve this in isolation, and I'll keep saying, when we know what the immediate problems of our people are, let's tackle those ones head on and not copy and paste. Because what worked in Canada is likely not going to work here. And I like what you said about, because like internet society, we go to the rural. And the company I work for, ICSL, we build rural telephony networks. And I know even in this country, we've installed or we have deployed telephony network that people were calling for the first time from their own soil. I mean, is that bad? I heard that call and I was teary. That, are you kidding me? And this person speaking was like a chief. So every time they need to make, or they travel miles to make those calls. So policy needs to also take care of the people that are largely not seen, but they contribute largely to our society. And this does not just mean Nigeria. And another part that DG said that I really love is, let's start it small like that, and replication will come automatically. Because one thing I have noticed, when something succeeds, to replicate it becomes really easier.
Yeah.
To replicate it becomes really easier. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. And I like the passion that you used. All right, DG, doctor, sir.
Okay, thank you. I think policy or adoption, which one should come first? For me, it's paradoxical situation. They need to come together. We can't wait for policy or adoption, which one before which. Because, for example, like regulating is like putting a traffic light. To put a traffic light, you need to understand the traffic pattern. These technologies we are dealing with are not something that generation before us dealt with. So there are no law books or history we can make reference to. Therefore, to regulate them, the only way out is to test them by developing use cases, then putting guardrails in place before you talk about policies. We don't want a situation like a social media where we all started like Alice in the Wonderland. We thought we were using Google. Later on, we realized as we search Google, but not as much as Google searches us. We thought these are free systems, and they see us as a free raw materials. So we don't want to end that way. That's why we are pushing for a collaborative way between the policy makers, change makers, and impact makers to work together to build responsible and ethical system. So our approach is always whatever we are going to do, whatever is illegal online is also illegal offline. If you are building a system that will decide who gets what in a society, you cannot just sit as a system engineer in a cubicle to build that system. You need other professionals to contribute and be part of it, to design it. So that's why we are pushing also for sovereignty. The sovereignty for us is not about closing our borders to say we need to build our technology. We are not going to use any foreign technology. But we are talking about building capacity for digital self-determination. Today, you and I, we don't determine the technologies we use. We don't have control over it. It's agreement. You don't have option to reject that agreement. User agreement, if you reject it, you can't use that technology. But how can we build technology that respect our laws, that respect our values, our culture, our society. So we need to change our perception, the way we see technology as just a market for profiting. This is societies we are building. This technology are becoming increasingly powerful, controlling us, deciding who gets what, profiling us, and so on. And also they are becoming increasingly integrated. Anything you can think today, you can connect to it, you can get data, you can manipulate it. These big techs, they control all of us. They control what we see, what we buy, what we believe, who we friend, and so on. So whoever controls your data controls you. So that means we don't have sovereignty, we don't have control over it. And also, our society is becoming increasingly quantified. Everything you do today is captured, processed, and stored. Where is it stored? Who controls it? Who knows what you do? So these are the kind of policies we should push for. So Africa, we should look at how to collaboratively build and implement intelligent and harmonized policies that prioritize and risk private investment for shared and foundational public infrastructure. So that's the only way out for us as a continent. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, DG, for bringing that balance between policymakers and industry players. Thank you, that was helpful. So to wrap this up, the reality is we're living in a different world today. This is a totally different world from what we had 20, 30 years ago. The digital age is right here with us. As simple as today, when you leave your home and you leave your smartphone behind, it's almost like you can't function. And yet you didn't have that 20 years ago. So that's the different world that we're living in today. And who knows what the next 20 years is going to bring. We cannot afford to be left behind. Like our distinguished panelists have spoken, we must be in the forefront of this race. I like what the DG said about digital self-determination. Very important. Africa has challenges, but those challenges are platforms for us to come up with solutions, homegrown solutions that are tailored to meet our specific needs. And this is something we must really do as Nigerians and as Africans. You know, Nigeria celebrated 65 years of independence a few days ago. We will soon start talking about digital independence, where we wean ourselves from the influences of external forces. So I think that's a very important point to take home. And also the point on digital inclusion is absolutely important. Nigeria is not just Lagos, it's not just Abuja. The vast majority of Nigerians do not have access. And this is something policy should really look into, to unlock the potentials of those who don't have access, to make sure they have access, to live a better life, and more importantly, to contribute their part towards building a better economy. I'd like to thank especially our panelists here. Please give them a big hand as they go back to their seats. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you.